Hey, where's all this stuff? Oof. All right, good evening. Am I coming through? That is the $1,000,000 question. Can I hear myself? All right, testing, 1, 2. Yeah. Yes, I can hear myself. Awesome. Okay. That is perfect. I can hear myself coming in nice and loud. It's a shame Kick has been kicked off Kick. Let's see if this is going to work. All right, well, that did work. All right, cool. So I think everything is coming through. Yep. And I can hear myself. Let's have a look and see. Yep. Coming through there. All right. Awesome. So let me bring this up. About to go live. Hope everyone's had a great week. All right. Just got to post one more thing and then we're off and going. All right. Going live. Okay. That in there. Where's this? Here we go. Grab this. Drupal CMS. All right. That is posted. All right. Brings up nice and close. And what else do I need to do? I need to turn on recording. So I'm just going to start recording things locally. What is it? Pod mic USB. Start recording there. And we can start recording in OBS. All right, brings up nice and close. All right. I think we are good to go. All right, with comments. All right, cool. Bring this in. And yeah, all right. Let's do it. All right, if you have any questions, please throw them in. I'll do my best to answer them. And let's have some fun. Okay. So switch over to this one and let's get going. All right, what is this called? Build a list. All right, cool. All right. Now, if you want to capture emails and send them all within Drupal, what module should you use? When it comes to managing emails in Drupal, there are a few modules out there, but the one that I want to focus on tonight is called Simple News. Now, this module has been around for a long time. I remember using it in Drupal 7 days, and it's pretty good because you can actually use it to build out a full email marketing platform, believe it or not. And I have covered this module, I think about 2 streams ago, where I covered how to capture emails and I went through the various ways you can capture emails in Drupal. And this was one of the modules that I covered. And I did say that I do want to dedicate a full video to using it. So that is the video tonight. I want to show you how to set up and install Simple News and also how to capture emails, how to test emails, and then we're going to look at using Drupal AI and ECA to generate a summary of blog posts that are quote unquote written in Drupal, and then we can send that off. So we're going to first look at setting up the module, and then we're going to finish things off by, looking at a bit of AI stuff, because that's what everyone's talking about. That's all the fun stuff today, isn't it? No, I'm joking. But no, there is actual real value in this AI stuff. Like if you could easily just spin up a summary and just send it off, then it makes life so much easier, because it means you can get more content out there. So with that, if you want to learn more about Simple News, head over to drupal.org/project/simple news, and you can learn all about the module there. And if we scroll all the way down, I recommend that you stick with the correct version of your Drupal site. So if you're using Drupal 11, then make sure you use version 4.1 and above. If you're using Drupal 10, use version 4. But if you are using Drupal 10, you might as well start thinking about upgrading to Drupal 11 very soon. And as usual, I do like to check out the statistics. So let's take a look at this. All right, so we can see, yep, it peaked at around 2016, 2018, and it started to go down a little bit. But that's all right, because it is actually pretty stable and it works pretty well. So let's go back. Now, to get started, simply download it using Composer, and I've already done that. And I will jump over to my site, and the first thing I'll do is go ahead to extend, and I will install it. So search for Simple. Believe it or not, there's a lot of Simple modules out there that were called Simple. And I'll go ahead and install Simple News. So just give that a moment. And straight away, you want to think about the permissions, because if we take a look at the permissions, right, this is the most important one right here. Subscribe to newsletters. You need to stop and think, are you going to allow anonymous users to subscribe to your newsletter? If so, and when I say anonymous, that means anyone just off the internet. So you have to think of possible spam issues as well. If you are going to allow people, just random people on the internet to subscribe, you might get some spam. Or maybe you want to just allow logged in users to register. Well, then that'll just be authenticated user. Or maybe you have some other custom role that you want to just allow to subscribe, and then you'll assign this permission to that role. So just stop and think exactly who should have access. First of all, who should have the ability to subscribe, and second, who should also administer things. That's the first part. And now what you can do is just go ahead and create your actual newsletter list. So to do that, just go to configuration and scroll all the way down to web services, and you should see Simple News. Just click on that. And you do get a default newsletter. So think of this as I'll think of it as a list. So if you think of it more in the MailChimp way, so I've been sending out emails for like the last 15 odd years or something. And I remember I originally used MailChimp the first time because everything was around a list. Users subscribed to a list. And then you had other email providers come out where everything was around the actual email, so the contact. And then you simply tag that email to a bunch of lists. So it kind of works a different way. So things like, what is it? Drift? No. Yeah, Drift. Was it Drift? Or no, I know like ConvertKit or Kit was one of them where 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 the user or the email is a first-class citizen, whereas here, really, it's the list. So it's kind of like the MailChimp way of doing things. Now, I don't know, maybe MailChimp has changed, but just think of it as a list. So by default, you do get a default newsletter here. But if you click on settings, you can configure a few items on the settings. So you can configure things such as the default newsletter options, what type of format it's going to be, the sender information, and this stuff you want to just spend a bit of time configuring correctly when you are setting this up on your actual Drupal site, because this will affect the deliverability of your emails. And this is a huge thing that you need to think about. Yes, Simplenews is great. It's a great module, but you also need to make sure and you need to maintain the deliverability of your emails. And so that is, it's making sure that your IP isn't banned or isn't on some, deny list for spammers. And also you want to use a reputable SMTP server. If you are going to use a third-party server, you really should be using a third-party server. So things like, what is it? What do I use? I use Mailgun, I think, for WebWash. The Mailgun? Yeah, Mailgun. But you do have AWS SES. So that's an AWS service. And then you do have, what is it? SendGrid. You have a whole bunch of them. Then under subscription, you can configure things such as if you want to skip confirmation for anonymous users, you don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that they confirm. And then you can also set up the days of how long unconfirmed users will stay in your system. And then you can also configure a few other items. Then you have the send mail, so how you want to send emails. Cron, of course, is the best way of doing it if you're sending out a lot of emails. And then you can also throttle things as well. And then if you want to fully uninstall things, you can go ahead and do that. But with that, let's go back to, newsletter, and let's create 2 newsletters. So let's click on add newsletter, and we'll call this one, of course, we're going to call it Drupal Weekly. And then used for, weekly Drupal emails. So I'll copy that because we will use it down here in the reason section. But then under subscription settings, you do have a few options. So under subscribe new account, this is mostly around when you have new accounts. So the actual description here explains it pretty well. So if none is selected, that means none of the newsletters will be available to subscribe on the registration page. If default is selected, that means that the newsletter is listed and is selected by default. If default is off, that means that it is on the registration page, but it's not selected by default. And then silent just means that users automatically get assigned to it. And then you have access here. Again, any user with as it says here, any user with the subscribe to newsletter permission can subscribe or unsubscribe to this list, or if it's hidden, that means chances are you are doing things programmatically. And then on the reasons, used for weekly newsletters, and then you can configure a few more items under here as well. So let's click on save. And finally, what we're going to do, let's create another one. And we'll call this one JavaScript Weekly. used for weekly JavaScript emails. And we'll just leave everything as it is. You don't have to put a reason in there, but it does help. And click on save. Okay. So at this point, we have created our newsletters. Now let's take a look at how we can get people to subscribe to the actual newsletter. So let's take a look first at doing it for just anyone on the internet. So an anonymous user. So what I'll do is I'll first create a basic page. I'll call this one newsletter. And we'll give it, I don't know, what are we going to call it? Subscribe to our newsletter. And we'll make it published. Okay, pretty simple. Now what we can do is let's go to block layout and we'll add this to the standard content region. And you should search for, what is it? Simple news subscription. And we can add a block. And this block, we can give it a title. So let's not show title or even, let's leave the show managed link. Then we can make a few newsletters visible. So that is weekly, the Drupal weekly and the JavaScript weekly. And also you can set it by default if you want, but we won't do that. And we'll also restrict this block so it only appears on newsletter. So the page is just /newsletter. And let's click on Save Blocks. And now if we go to the page, we should see 2 checkboxes. Now, the reason why we can't see an actual field to enter in our email address is because we are logged in. So Drupal will automatically assign the user account to these newsletters. And that's one thing I should also mention, that the real benefit for me for using Simplenews is the integration with the Drupal user. Okay, you have one-to-one first-party integration between your email system and your Drupal users, and that is huge. I don't know if you've ever tried to integrate MailChimp with users in Drupal. It's not the best experience, but by using Simplenews, it's very easy. Everything is integrated. You can easily figure out which lists users are subscribed to. So if you are looking for a third-party email provider and you're not worried about integrating it with Drupal users, then maybe it's just best to use some type of third-party system that's outside of Drupal, because it's going to be easier to maintain. But if you do want to offer awesome integration, like powerful integration between your user accounts and your email system, then that's where Simplenews really helps. So to really look to see this in action, let's open up a incognito window. And if we click on here, we can see our email field, and also we can then subscribe to a bunch of lists. Now, the reason why, again, I can see this and I've got access to this block is because the subscribe to newsletter permission is given to anonymous users. So let's now test this out. If I put in test example.com and I subscribe to a few email newsletters and click on subscribe, I'll get a message saying that I need to go to the confirmation page. Let me just move these browsers just slightly so I can easily switch between them. And what I want to show you right now is how to test our emails using DDEV. So if we jump over to our terminal and I type in DDEV status, you will see that DDEV comes with MailPit. Now, MailPit is a application that simply just captures outgoing emails, and it is a awesome application to use with a Drupal site, because it's a great way to test out your emails that get sent and also just capture them. And Also, you don't want to accidentally send emails because, it happens to all of us. We set up a site locally and we press a few buttons, and then all of a sudden the client's like, I'm receiving all these like test emails. Why is that? And it's like, oh, well, actually, I accidentally kept sending them locally. So what you can do is you can type in DDEV Mailpit, or you can just go to this URL and you can access all of this information by just typing in DDEV status. So luckily here, I've got this actually set up right here. So this is what it looks like. And you can see here, we've got this confirmation and we get this nice little email where we can confirm things. So I'll copy this address. And if I open up a new tab, I can then go ahead and confirm it. And so now I'm officially confirmed. Let me just refresh this and I'll just put in another account that's not confirmed. And let's just send that off. All right. Now, let me just close this. You can see I've got another email here, which is asking me to confirm. Now, where do all of these emails go? If that's something you've been asking, that is a very good question. So to see all the emails, what you can do, or your subscribers, what you can do is go to people, and you do have the subscribers view here, or if you click on people in the nav bar and click on subscribers, you can see them all here. Now, by default, we can only see active because active is chosen. But if you select unconfirmed, that means that the user hasn't confirmed the email address. So they haven't clicked on the confirmation. You can see right here that we've got this one right here, this email address that has been unconfirmed. And then of course, if we click on all of them to view any, we can see both our active and unconfirmed. From this page, you can export your users out. You can also mass subscribe. Not sure how that works with GDPR and things like that, but hey, you can do that. You can also mass unsubscribe, and then also you've got lists as well. So you have a few options there. You do have a few options. So when it comes to capturing emails, especially for non-logged in users, this is probably the best way of doing it. You just add the block, add it to a region, and just start accepting users. You could also set up web form and put in some integration where you just send people off to, or send emails to actual, to Simplenews, and then Simplenews handles it. That's one way of doing it. And you could just build a custom form in Drupal if you want, and just send it off and programmatically create and subscribe the user to the newsletter list. Now let's take a look at the actual integration with a user account. So if I go to people, well, let's go to people right here, and let me just create a test account. So I'll call this one test, and then Ivan. And I'll create, what's my email address? I'll just put in a simple email address. And I'll click on create new account. Oh, hello. Well, the first comment from LinkedIn. Hi there. Fernando from Brazil. How you doing? Let me see. Can I actually post? No, I can't actually. That's a bit annoying. Let me jump in there. All right, there we go. Now let's open up a incognito window. So what is that? Well, let me just copy this URL. And what I can do is type in, okay, I'm going to get access denied because I don't have access to this page, but that's okay. Then if I go to my account, I should see then newsletters. Okay, and from here, I can simply select the list and click on save. And now I am subscribed. So you can see just how easy it is to subscribe as a user to these lists. And that's what I was saying. If you want awesome integration between your user accounts and the ability to send emails, then Simple News is a good choice. And if I close this and go to people again and then subscribers, you will see that now I've got my username linked up to the actual email address. So straight away you can see, you can see the email address, and then also you can see the user account. But to control all of this and also to control the permissions, what you want to do is make sure you configure, or is it Simple News? Yeah, just make sure you configure these permissions correctly. So make sure you configure them correctly. All right, so we've got a comment here. So this is a service like MailChimp you are building. That is correct, yes. So that is using Simple News. It's not, I would say, yes, it is kind of like MailChimp, but think of it as an email service provider within Drupal. Yes. Okay, so now let's take a look at actually sending off emails, because we have created our list. We have created a way to accept and capture emails, and that is through a block and also through user accounts. Now let's look at actually sending off an email, because how do you do that? Well, there is the Drupal way of doing it, and that is by using a content type. So when you install Simple News the first time, you do get a newsletter issue content type out of the box. But in our case, let's create our own content type. So what I'll do is under structure, content types, I'll click on create, or what is it, add content type, and I'll call this one weekly newsletter. And from publishing options, you want to make sure that you select use as Simple News newsletter. Because what this does is that this creates a custom field. Well, a specific field that comes with Simple News, and it attaches it to the content type. So let's click on save. And here you can see the Simple News _ issue field. And let's create another field. Well, we're going to reuse a field, and we'll add in the content field for that. And we'll only allow the email text format. And we'll click on save. And you also want to make sure, if you come into manage form display, you want to make sure you can see the actual Simple News widget. Let's go to manage display. Let's move that down. Because one thing to be aware of, if we go to our content types page and then click on manage fields, you'll notice that this newsletter, well, this Simple News issue field, it's called newsletter. It is a bit confusing because it's called newsletter in this content type, but in the content type that we created, it's called issue. By default, the widget is actually hidden. So when you do come, to newsletter issue, you're like, all right, so what do I do here? And that's honestly what happened with me. I was like, all right, cool. What do I do? And it wasn't until I came here, I was like, oh, okay. You need to then move this field up the top there. And now, now you can see a content type, okay? Oh, sorry, now you can see a newsletter. And you've got it right there. All right, so what we can do is we can come back to our newsletter. So we'll call this one latest Drupal news. And we can put in a bunch of text. We can then select which list to essentially go to. So let's select Drupal and we can click on save. And take note of this. Okay, send the newsletter via the newsletter tab. Now, the newsletter tab in this case is up the top here. So click on the options and then click on newsletter. And now what you can do is you can see that the newsletter will be sent to 2 subscribers, or you can send off a test email. So let's do that. Let's send off a test email. And then using our Mailpit test account, or Mailpit test application, sorry, you can see the actual copy of the email that was sent. And you can see the HTML source, and also you can see the text, the headers, raw, HTML check, link check. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can check here. And the other thing you can do is simply delete all the emails as well. Then if we go back, if we want to send the actual email, all you need to do is click on send now, and it will send it using Cron. So of course, if you click on send now, it's saying pending. And depending how often you have Cron set up locally, will depend how quickly it actually gets sent out. Now, to see all of the newsletters and also the state of the newsletters, what you can do is go to content, and you should see newsletter issues. And here you can see the send status. And right now it is 0 of 2. However, if we run cron, so you can run cron a few times, you can run cron a few ways, but let's just run it through here. So I'll run it through Drush. Now I'm going to type in DDEV because I'm using DDEV as the environment, and then Drush, and then simply cron. And now cron is run. And if we refresh this page, we should see, yep, send status 2 of 2. So it's been sent. And if we come back here, we can see our 2 emails that have been sent. But you can always, let's go back to our email. Is this it? Yes, it is. We can always go back to newsletter, and you can also access this newsletter button by coming into the content management area and then clicking on operations, and you should see newsletter as well. If we click on here, you can see that yes, it has been sent. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yes, newsletters can only be sent once. That's right, you can just duplicate it, I guess. And this is the email that was sent. So as you can see, sending off emails, once you've created the content type and things like that, is pretty straightforward. Now, you will probably spend a bit of time playing around with the designs, because that's pretty much every type of system. And especially if you are generating content and then having that automatically be sent out, then you may have to test out certain type of markup, because not all markup renders nicely in emails. So at this point, we have been manually creating our newsletters. What I want to do now is automate the creation of these emails, just the email content, using Drupal AI and ECA. So to do that, let's first go ahead and install the AI Assistant recipe. So click on Extend and then Recommend. And what we're going to do is turn on this AI Assistant. So I will click on that, and what I'll do is I will put in my key, but I will just do it on this screen and click on Continue. Well, you can't see that. All right, I'll bring that back in. Perfect. And now if I refresh, and the little chat window is on the wrong side. So let me just move myself. Wait, which way am I moving myself? No, that way. That way. There we go. There we go. And then right down at the bottom here, I've got this little chat bot, and I can say, hello. Let's see if it's actually working. All right, good. All right. Are you working? Now, we're not going to be using this chatbot agent. All right, cool. All right, it's working. That's it. That's all I want to do. I just want to make sure it is working. And the AI Assistant is one part of the process. The second part of the process is using ECA. Now, what is ECA? Well, ECA stands for, and I always get it wrong, Event Condition Action. ECA? Yeah, Event Condition Action. Let me bring this up. Should have brought this up in a different tab. Call this ECA. It is a Event Condition Action. There we go, it is. It is a no-code module that allows you to create workflows directly in Drupal. So think of rules. If you remember rules being popular in Drupal 7, it's kind of like rules where you can set up actions based off certain events and conditions. All right, so there is a comment. Okay, what about build a newsletter using the advanced queue? I assume advanced queue is a module. Well, you could probably integrate Simplenews with advanced queue, but there is a queuing system and a batch system with Simplenews, so that is all handled for you because you can configure Simplenews to only send 20 emails at a time. So you will probably have to set up a separate cron or run a separate drush command to kind of consistently send out those emails. Now, ECA comes with Drupal CMS, so we don't have to install it. The only extra installation we need to do, because I always forget this, and that is we need to install the AI ECA integration. I always forget that. So let's go ahead and do that. And install it. All right, so now that's installed. And all we need to do now is set up an actual, what is it? Is it called a model or workflow? I think it's called a model. Let me just close these tabs, clean up a few things around here. And so let's go to configuration, workflow, and we should see ECA. And click on add new model. And what we're going to do is we'll call this one, let's see, hopefully everyone can see it in the video. Yes, you can. I am on the right-hand side. Well, no, technically not right-hand side. I'm on the right side. So I'm not covering the stuff on the right-hand side, if you know what I mean. English language. I'm on the left-hand side, but I am technically on the right side to make sure I'm not covering up. There we go. All right, let me give this a name, generate newsletter. And we'll start things off by putting in an action. And what we want to do is run this action on the pre-save. So that is the pre-save content. So ECA content module. And this will be pre-save. Then under the type dropdown, you want to select the content type that you have created to manage your newsletter. So in this case, it's going to be weekly newsletter. And we do need to make one change to our content type. We want to reference the actual blog post in the newsletter. So to do that, what we can do is go to content types, click on manage fields, create field, and we'll click on reference and we'll select content and call this one related. And we'll make it required and click on save. Well, no, let's also select blog post and click on save. And I also want to make sure that related is displayed there. Perfect. Okay, it is. And what we can do is set up our first action. And this will be get blog. So this is going to get the related blog post entity and load it up for us. So under template, we'll select, what is it? Load via, there we go, load via. So entity load via reference. And we need to give an actual token name. Now this token name is used throughout the whole model. And this is something to understand, okay, with ECA. Essentially, tokens are kind of passed around like variables through ECA. So once we have loaded up the referenced entity with this action, the loaded entity is then added to other parts, well, other actions within ECA through this specific token. So you want to think about just the name that you give it, because for us to access this blog post, we'll always access it via the newsletter related token. And then field name reference entity reference, that will be the actual name, which is field underscore related. We'll come back here. It is right here, field underscore related. And let's click on save. All right. Now to test things out, to test that things are being loaded up, what I like to do is add in a message. So what is it? Status? No, what is it? Log? Always forget it. What is the status message? No. Message. There we go. And we'll put in, so I do know, what is it? Newsletter. What was it? Newsletter related. And what I can do, because it is a loaded entity, we can pass it things such as title. So this will be title. And I can pass it, I'll just copy this again. And I should be able to get the field, because it is in field underscore content, using this token as well. So I'll call this one content. So let's save that. And what I'll do is I'll call this one test Drupal weekly. And let's relate it. Let's reference our test blog post. So I've created a bunch of test blog posts. And if we click on save, we should see the title and the content field of this blog post. So let's click on save. All right, so we can see that the title is getting passed and content is getting passed as well. All right, so there is a comment here, how to customize the email template. Now to do that, what you need to do is, there's probably template overrides you can do, but if you come to email templates, you do have the general email template that is sent. But at the end of the day, these are just content types. So the same way you template and override any type of content type on the front end is the same way you will do it here as well. So understand that, because we are simply loading up an entity and then just embedding that into the email. So if you do want to heavily override the look and feel of your email, what you essentially need to do is modify everything here. So that could be overriding the template for this view mode and then modifying things or removing fields, because we could we can easily remove this related field from here, from this view mode, the default view mode, and it won't be shown. So that's how you kind of do it. So it's not really a template, as you're not really overriding a template like you are in, say, MailChimp. It is still doing things the Drupal way. But you do have in Drupal CMS, you do have specific email templates that can be overridden from here. But in this case, remember that Drupal is loading up the entity and then embedding that into one of these email templates. So if you want to modify the look and feel, then you're modifying the look and feel of the actual view mode. All right, so here we can see that things are being loaded, so that's good. So that is good, okay? That's what you want to kind of test out with ECA, because the last thing you want to do is try and figure out why things aren't working. Then you realize that something here isn't set up correctly. Now, before we move on, what I like to do is I do want to put in a condition. So what we can do is if we click on one of these arrows, you can put in a condition, because the way I want things to work is if we come in here and edit. If this content field is empty, then I want the actual workflow in ECA to run. But if there's content already, if there's HTML in this content field, then it shouldn't run, okay? Because you don't want to generate summaries every single time you update the page. So to put in this type of condition, what we can do is click on the arrow, and then you want to search for field value. Field value is empty, and the field name will be field content. So essentially, this is just checking if the field is empty. So if it's not empty, and well, here you can also negate the condition as well. So this will only pass if the field is empty, and then continue on. And we can test that out by saving the page. And of course, if we come along in here and click on save, it's going to show us this message. But if we edit the page and just put something in there, we're not going to see it because it hasn't run. All right, now let's go ahead and put in our actual prompt. So what we need to do is put in another action. And if I click on select, you will see this chat under. So if we search for chat, you want to select that one. And then you can come in here and select your model. I will select, what is it? GPT-4o. And the token input is the token that was created from this action, which is related, which is newsletter related. So let's just grab that. And then what you need to do is put in a token which will be used as the results that comes from this action. So in this case, it is what OpenAI returns to us. And then we can use this token throughout the rest of ECA. So in this case, it will be called email_summary. Now these tokens can be called whatever you want, but think of them as variables, and just make sure you use the same variable across your whole model. Very important. And then if we scroll down, right down at the bottom here, we've got our actual prompt. Let me increase this. Hopefully you can see that. Yes, you can. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do is simply copy over. I'm not going to type it. Simply copy over a prompt. It's a pretty basic prompt. Essentially, all it is your task is to generate a newsletter summary, limit the summary to 100 words below, and this is where you're passing context. Again, very important when it comes to this AI stuff. We are passing the title and the content from the newsletter related action. And then I'm just telling it to generate basic HTML because sometimes it likes to wrap things around the HTML. So if we scroll up, let's give this generate summary. And our final action, because there's still one more action, what we need to do is we need to then create an action to save the generated value back into the content field on the newsletter. So to do that, all you need to do is search for set field value. But be careful, you do have set field widget value. You don't want that. You have set value under ECA form. You do not want that option. The one that you want is ECA content, which is entity set field value. So select that one. Wait, did that select? No. Set field value. All right. So let's select set field value. So we've selected that one. And the field name has to be field content. So that is the field name on the content type. And the field value should be, and this time you need to put in, because it's a token, should be email summary, which comes from here. Because remember, the results from OpenAI are added to this token, which is email summary. And then the email summary token is then used to store the value. And then it is set. It can be a little confusing when it says, when you should use brackets or not to use square brackets, but it often tells you here, you'll see, where is it? We'll say without brackets, it'll tell you there. I think also, yeah, well, you can put brackets there. Yeah, without brackets. So just remember that. So just keep an eye on that. And so you want to make sure, yep, field name is field_name, and that is all there. Perfect. So let's click on save. And what we can do, let's put in another, what is it, log message. We'll call this one summary. And what is it? Email summary. I just like to test this out, make sure. And from a usability standpoint, you may want to actually just put a little message in there to tell the user and notify them that, yes, something has changed. All right, so now this is all set up. So let's just quickly go through this. We have a pre-save. So on a pre-save event, it'll get the related blog post using the load via reference. Then it'll go ahead and generate a summary through the AI action. Then the results will then be passed to the set field value action, and we just simply save it into the field. And because we are doing a pre-save, we don't have to manually save the entity ourselves. It'll automatically do that at the end. So if everything has been set up correctly, this is the moment of truth. Well, I know it's working because it doesn't straight away refresh, okay? So if everything is working, let's just click on save. And remember, we do have a condition. So if we do want to generate just a new summary, we just have to remove everything from this field. Click on save. And it is doing something because it's taken a while. And if we give it a moment, we can see, yep, it's gone ahead and generated a summary for us. We can see it right here. And I have noticed that it doesn't render things correctly, but that's okay, because if we just come along in here, you'll see that everything is rendered nicely. And if we click on save again, it displays it correctly here. And what we need to do is come back in here and click on Drupal Weekly, which is our newsletter. And if we click on save again, you'll see straight away it just saved it. It didn't actually go off to OpenAI. If we want to generate another summary, we can just remove it and click on save, and you'll see again, it's taken a while, taken a few seconds, and it's generated another one. And let's just save that again. You can see it's very quick. And now if we go to the newsletter tab and click on send newsletter issue, we should see it has fired off a newsletter issue. And here you can see our related field. So as I was mentioning with the comment about customizing the email template, you can see that right now, the newsletter email gets loaded up or rendered as an entity and then just placed into this template and sent. And then the user can go ahead and view the email. And if we want to send it off, where is it? We can just click on send now, and it's going to send it. And if we go here, configuration, where is it? Cron, run cron, it's going to go and send it off. Then we go to content, the newsletter issues, and we can see our email that was sent. There you go. So when it comes to sending emails, I mean, that's pretty much it. Simple, isn't it? Now, of course, setting this up on a real Drupal site, you will be spending a bit of time modifying the look and feel of the emails that get sent out, especially if you want to automate a lot of things. And in the past, I've actually used Simplenews to send digests, like a daily digest of content that gets created. And you can imagine with that, you have to really make sure that all of the summaries are set at a particular length. So they're only like 160 characters. You only send a certain amount, and you want to make sure, all HTML is cleaned out, or you may get broken emails that get sent out because there's a loose HTML element that hasn't been closed and things like that. So there is a fair bit of work around that. And also, as I was mentioning, that you have to think about deliverability of your emails. You have to also budget in time that will be spent fixing spam issues from your server. You might get blacklisted. You might have a day where randomly all your emails are just bouncing. And I've worked at companies where, what was it? There was one company I worked at, and it was a online recruitment company. So this was a long, long time ago. I think it was like my second job. And the system allowed people to apply for jobs. So having the ability to send out emails was very important. And we would just randomly have our servers blocked by Yahoo. Like, I'm showing my age right now, but yes, Yahoo, Hotmail, and it'll happen for about 24 hours. And no one knows why. We will try and contact somebody at Yahoo or Hotmail and say, we have like 5,000 emails in the queue. They're bouncing. They're not allowed to get sent. Why is it? And then 24 hours later, everything's fine. Everything starts sending off again. And that's it. So we've had issues like that in the past. And so you just have to prepare for things like that. So if you want to send out emails and you want to have nice, tight integration with your Drupal users, then take a look at Simplenews. Because using it with ECA and also Drupal AI makes it very easy to kind of automate the creation of your emails. And then you can even automate the creation and also sending as well. It just depends how far you want to take it. So if you do want to look at nice email integration into your Drupal site, your Drupal core or Drupal CMS site, take a look at Simplenews. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for the questions tonight and everyone who's been watching. If you have any comments or if you have any questions, please leave them at the bottom of the video. Now, this video will be available after this stream. You can always watch it. They'll always be available for free on YouTube, and also check out the other videos that we have about Drupal. And if you want to learn more about Drupal itself, go to webwash.net. And also, if you have any ideas for future live streams, then please let me know. Anyway, that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. All right, that was fun. All right, let's take a look at this. Yeah, sorry about that. There was a comment about just advanced queue. Let's take a look at this module. Advanced queue. Ooh. Oh, okay, so this is just like a UI for the actual queue system. Okay, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. No, good stuff. All right, so that was fun. That was fun. Let me just pause the recording. If anyone has any questions, more than happy to answer them. And did this recording actually work? Yes, it did. Awesome. Oh, great. You know what I did? All right, well, I will finish things off. Thank you very much for the comments. And yeah, if you have any questions, please hit me up. All right, cool. Have a great weekend.